The visual storytelling in this campaign takes on a profound depth, elevating the imagery from mere advertisement to an exploration of identity, struggle, and triumph. Depp's movements are deliberate yet fluid, as though each step in the barren desert is a reaffirmation of his ongoing journey. The landscape is not just a backdrop, but an active participant in his odyssey. The expanse of the terrain emphasizes the solitude of his path, amplifying the quiet resilience embodied by the actor. There's an almost meditative quality to the scene, as the open desert symbolizes both the vastness of opportunity and the endlessness of challenge. In a world increasingly consumed by the artificial, this raw representation of self seems both refreshing and powerful. Depp's journey through the desert mirrors not just his character's evolution, but also the transformative process inherent in life itself. A shedding of the superfluous, a return to something elemental. The cinematic framing of Depp's lone figure against the horizon underscores a key element of the narrative, the power of introspection in defining one's own meaning. This image doesn't suggest the loneliness of abandonment, but rather the solitude of a man finding his own space in the world, free of external judgments, free of the expectations placed upon him by fame or society. The stillness is filled with potential energy, as if at any moment Depp could break from his solitary contemplation to engage with the world anew. The rough desert beneath his boots feels like a tactile manifestation of the challenges faced and overcome, each grain of sand a symbol of time passed and wisdom gained. The sparse music, with its aching bluesy riff, deepens the emotional texture of the piece. It's as if the guitar's mournful notes echo the very essence of Depp's character, someone who has weathered life's storms yet remains unbroken. There's an inherent vulnerability in the music that beautifully complements Depp's portrayal, suggesting that beneath the tough exterior is a man who has been shaped by both pain and beauty. This is a masculinity that exists not in brute force, but in emotional nuance. A masculinity that doesn't need to shout, but instead commands attention through its subtlety. The absence of dialogue in the campaign amplifies this message, inviting the viewer to fill the silences with their own interpretations. The decision to let the imagery, rather than words, convey the story reflects a level of trust in the audience's emotional intelligence. In a market flooded with flashy ads that rely heavily on catchphrases or bold statements, Dior's campaign with Depp represents a deliberate and sophisticated deviation. It respects the viewer's ability to connect with deeper meanings, offering not just an aesthetic experience but a reflective one. The close-up shots of Depp's weathered hands, his creased face, and the fine details of his lived-in clothing reinforce this narrative of a life rich in experience. These intimate glimpses humanize the icon, reminding us that behind the public persona is a real person, a man marked by both triumphs and trials. The imagery of dust clinging to his clothing and the faint lines of wear on his leather cuffs bring the character to life in a way that is both raw and deeply personal. These aren't just clothes. They are elements of his journey, visual markers of the road he's traveled, of the challenges he's faced, and the wisdom he's accumulated along the way. The wardrobe is more than just a stylistic choice. It is integral to the story being told. Each item Depp wears carries its own history, from the sun-bleached scarf that has softened over time to the leather cuffs that seem to have been forged through experience rather than design. These details are more than accessories. They are the symbols of his past, his battles, and his ongoing evolution. The dust on his clothes, the faint shadows beneath his eyes, each element of his appearance is a subtle reminder that this is not just a performance, but a reflection of a lived experience. This naturalistic approach to styling brings authenticity to the campaign, further blurring the line between the world of fashion and the reality of human existence. Ultimately, the campaign is not just a promotion for a fragrance. It is an invitation into a larger narrative, one that speaks to the complexities of life, identity, and masculinity. By grounding the imagery in emotional truth rather than superficial perfection, Dior and Demichi have crafted a piece of art that feels timeless and deeply resonant. Through its minimalist approach, it reveals a profound understanding of both Depp's own persona and the deeper meanings behind the campaign. Every shot, every movement, every detail has been carefully considered to create an experience that lingers long after the ad is over, a testament not only to the power of visual storytelling but to the enduring strength of the human spirit. In a world where marketing often prioritizes instant gratification and sensationalism, Dior's decision to step away from trends and embrace a figure like Johnny Depp is a bold reimagining of what luxury and storytelling can be. The brand is not simply selling a product, but investing in the cultivation of a legacy. By choosing Depp, a figure who has lived through both personal and professional upheaval, the campaign becomes a reflection of the complexities of life itself. The rugged desert landscape serves as a powerful symbol of that journey. Harsh, unyielding, but ultimately transformative. Dior's message is clear. Masculinity, like fragrance, is not defined by conformity, but by the unique story each man carries. In this case, the desert is not just an environment, but a mirror of Depp's own path, a place where he can strip away the excess and confront who he truly is, beyond the headlines and the noise. The beauty of the campaign lies in its recognition that true strength comes from within, not from overt displays of power. Depp's portrayal as a contemporary cowboy, a figure whose resilience is tested not by external forces, but by his internal struggles, renews the notion of ruggedness. It's no longer about dominating the physical world, it's about the emotional endurance required to weather personal storms. This redefinition of masculinity invites a broader conversation about vulnerability as a form of strength and the quiet power that comes with self-assurance. Depp's character is not a brash, swaggering figure. He is measured, composed, and reflective. There is a grace in the way he moves, a dignity that stands in contrast to the typical representations of strength we see in today's media. Jean-Baptiste Mondino's camera work plays an instrumental role in conveying this nuanced, emotional landscape. The absence of flourish in his shots forces the viewer to engage directly with the rawness of Depp's presence. He captures moments where the light seems to caress Depp's face, revealing the subtle contours of age, experience, and wisdom. These imperfections are not viewed as flaws, but as part of the man's story. The starkness of the desert amplifies this effect, with its vast, unforgiving expanse creating a visual metaphor for the challenges Depp has faced and overcome. The desert, framed through Mondino's lens, is both an external landscape and an internal one, a place where identity is forged, and where the silence becomes both a reflection of isolation and a sanctuary for self-discovery. Mondino's decision to capture Depp without overt expressions or the typical performative gestures of fame further enriches the narrative. By avoiding direct eye contact, Depp remains an enigma, a figure that viewers must interpret based on their own emotional responses to the images. The strength of the campaign lies in its restraint. It allows the audience to project their own feelings, to find meaning in the subtleties of Depp's quiet gaze or the tension in his stillness. This is not the kind of campaign that demands attention. It invites it gently, almost imperceptibly, pulling the viewer into a space where emotional depth is the focus rather than aesthetic spectacle. This campaign speaks not just about Dior, nor simply about Depp, but about the timeless human need for redemption, resilience, and authenticity. In contrast to the fast-paced, noise-driven world of modern advertising, it offers a moment of pause, a space for contemplation on what it means to endure, to evolve, and to find peace in the process. Depp's journey is emblematic of a deeper narrative, one that aligns with the universal human experience. It is a quiet reflection on survival in a world that often demands noise, reminding us that sometimes the most profound statements are made in silence. The desert, in its raw beauty, becomes a visual poem, evoking themes of solitude, strength, and self-realization that transcend the limits of traditional marketing. This is not just an ad campaign. It is a visual meditation on the power of being true to oneself in a world that often demands more than we can give. The power of the campaign lies in how it strips away the unnecessary trappings of traditional advertising and allows the viewer to focus on something more universal, the essence of self, untouched by the superficial distractions of fame. Dior's commitment to simplicity is not just an aesthetic choice, but a philosophical one. By eliminating the extravagance that often characterizes high-end marketing, the brand crafts a narrative that centers on the human condition, not the spectacle. The barren, open desert reflects not just Depp's physical journey, but his emotional one, each step in the dust laden with both history and hope. The absence of distractions forces the viewer to engage with Depp not as a character constructed for a campaign, but as a real, lived person. There are no pretenses or false images, only raw, unfiltered honesty, making this campaign a rare moment of authenticity in a world increasingly inundated by curated content. The minimalist approach to styling further deepens this sense of genuineness. The wardrobe's worn, weathered fabrics become a visual shorthand for a life that has been lived fully, not without struggle, but with dignity. The lack of any overt branding or logos elevates the focus on Depp's character rather than the product. This move subtly invites the viewer to connect with the deeper message of the campaign, that true beauty and style are not dependent on outward displays of wealth or status, but on the internal qualities that make a person whole. The roughness of the materials, the creases, and wrinkles speak of time spent in the elements, time spent being shaped by the world, rather than attempting to control it. This is a wardrobe that feels lived in, not in the sense of being worn out, but in the sense of being lived through. It suggests a man who has faced adversity and, in turn, found a kind of quiet strength and resilience. In this regard, the costume design serves as a metaphor for Depp's own personal transformation. Just as his attire has been worn by time, so too has Depp's public persona evolved. The rugged denim and worn leather do not mask who he is, but rather accentuate the layers of complexity within him. The deliberate avoidance of perfection in the wardrobe serves to align with the campaign's core message, that real strength, whether in a man or a fragrance, is not about immaculate surfaces, but about the depth that comes from experience. Each fold in the fabric, each scuff on the leather, tells the story of a man who has lived and learned from his trials. It is an armor of survival, not showmanship. The campaign's resonance also comes from its ability to transcend the typical boundaries of age or cultural reference. The evocative imagery of Eastwood's influence speaks directly to those familiar with classic Hollywood, where heroes were forged through grit and silent strength. These cinematic icons, through their actions and their solitude, defined a version of masculinity that still resonates today. Yet Dior does not rely on nostalgia alone. Instead, it uses this reference as a foundation to build something that feels fresh and contemporary. Depp's modern sensibilities, his more introspective persona, are woven seamlessly into this timeless framework, showing that the virtues of self-reliance, integrity, and emotional depth are as relevant now as they were in the past. By maintaining a quiet strength rather than loud spectacle, the campaign appeals to the modern viewer who may be tired of the constant digital noise and performative gestures that often dominate today's media landscape. Furthermore, Dior's strategic use of cultural storytelling is pivotal in shaping the emotional resonance of the campaign. By acknowledging the mythic qualities of Eastwood's cinematic persona, the brand taps into a shared cultural language, one that evokes timeless notions of heroism and resilience. This is not mere pastiche. Dior has taken these references and used them as a framework to explore deeper, more complex themes. The idea of transformation through solitude, of finding one's true self in the face of hardship, speaks to universal experiences that transcend the boundaries of time. The desolate beauty of the desert becomes a symbol of personal rebirth, suggesting that even in the harshest environments, there is potential for growth and reinvention. Dior's thoughtful blending of past cinematic iconography with a modern narrative elevates the campaign into a form of artistic expression that is more profound than traditional advertising. This layering of cultural history, emotional depth, and visual storytelling elevates Dior's fragrance campaign from a mere advertisement into a meditation on identity, perseverance, and authenticity. It's an acknowledgement that the most enduring qualities in life and in fragrance are those that emerge from hardship, introspection, and quiet resilience. The campaign's ability to move beyond fashion and tap into the universal human experience transforms it into a profound reflection of what it means to navigate life's challenges with grace and dignity. By doing so, Dior doesn't just sell a fragrance. It offers a narrative about survival, growth, and the unspoken strength that lies in the most quiet moments of one's life. The depth of this collaboration between Dior and Depp extends far beyond the typical mechanics of celebrity endorsement. It represents a deliberate departure from the usual fast-paced, high-gloss marketing strategy that dominates today's advertising landscape. Instead of capitalizing on fleeting trends or trying to sell an idealized version of masculinity, Dior has created a campaign that feels timeless, grounded in a narrative that is both personal and universally relatable. It's a story of endurance, of navigating the complexities of fame, and of emerging from the crucible of public scrutiny with dignity and authenticity. Depp's role in shaping the direction of the campaign ensures that the final product reflects not just the brand's vision, but his own, offering a rare glimpse into the rawness of his own personal evolution. The absence of excessive polish or artificial styling in the campaign speaks volumes about Dior's confidence in the message it is delivering. This is not a carefully constructed facade or a performance meant to appease the viewer's expectations. Instead, it's a study in restraint. Each frame, whether it's of Depp standing against the vast desert or of a close-up of his worn hands, carries a weight that goes beyond mere aesthetics. The deliberate pace of the video mirrors the contemplative nature of the imagery, with each moment lingering long enough to allow the viewer to absorb its significance. There is a quiet power in these images, one that comes not from trying to impress, but from simply existing. By allowing Depp's presence to take center stage, the campaign becomes an expression of his own journey, a journey that resonates with anyone who has weathered hardship, endured criticism, and emerged stronger as a result. In this sense, the EI campaign's emotional honesty has a broader cultural relevance. It taps into a collective longing for something real amidst the overwhelming artificiality of modern life. In an age dominated by curated perfection and influencer culture, Dior's decision to present Depp as an imperfect yet resilient figure feels like a much-needed breath of fresh air. This is not a man posing for the camera, but a man living, in front of it, inviting the audience into his personal space without pretense. The lack of flashy visuals or overt commercial cues creates an intimacy that draws the viewer in, fostering a connection that feels earned rather than manufactured. The power of the campaign also lies in its ability to reach across generational lines, appealing to both those who grew up with the mythology of Clint Eastwood's cinematic persona and to a younger audience that may be unfamiliar with his films. For the former group, the campaign acts as a visual bridge to a time when heroes were defined by their actions, their silence, and their presence, rather than by their ability to perform for the camera. For younger viewers, the campaign offers a new interpretation of masculinity, one that is not about bravado or overexpression, but about subtlety, introspection, and quiet strength. This intersection of past and present is what makes the campaign feel both timeless and immediately relevant. It speaks to the enduring appeal of figures like Eastwood, while giving Depp the opportunity to carve out his own identity within that framework. What makes this campaign truly groundbreaking, however, is its ability to transcend the boundaries of traditional fashion advertising. It's more than just a marketing tool, it's an artistic statement. By prioritizing storytelling over product placement, Dior has turned a fragrance advertisement into a meditation on the nature of fame, survival, and identity. This is a campaign that refuses to be reduced to its commercial intent. Instead, it invites the viewer to experience the emotional depth of the narrative and to draw their own conclusions about the man in the desert. There's a profound sense of empathy embedded in the images, an invitation to reflect on our own journeys, our own resilience, and our own capacity for transformation. In the end, Dior has succeeded in creating a campaign that does not just sell a fragrance, but a feeling. It's a reflection of the world we live in, one that is messy, complicated, and often unforgiving. And it offers a vision of masculinity that is not about perfection, but about the quiet power of surviving, evolving, and standing firm in the face of adversity. This is a campaign that stays with you long after the images fade away, not because it is flashy or over the top, but because it resonates with something deeper, the enduring human spirit. Through its partnership with Depp, Dior has tapped into an emotional core that is both personal and universal, offering a portrayal of masculinity that is as nuanced and real as the man himself. In this profound shift in how masculinity is depicted, the Dior campaign featuring Johnny Depp pushes against the conventional, rigid portrayals of men in both fashion and culture. It offers a refreshing take that embraces the multifaceted nature of manhood, one that is rarely explored in typical advertisements. Depp, rather than conforming to the archetypes of aggression or emotional detachment, reveals a more rounded, human side of masculinity that is often overlooked. His presence is subtle, yet powerful. He doesn't need to shout to be heard. The campaign's brilliance lies in how it conveys strength without resorting to the loud and brash expressions often expected from male figures in the public eye. His silent strength, conveyed through his stillness, is a stark contrast to the overstimulated world of today's media, where attention must be captured through noise, flash, and constant activity. Through Depp's portrayal, the campaign allows for a masculinity that is quiet yet profoundly impactful. It's an acknowledgement that true strength lies in self-awareness, in resilience, and in the ability to embrace vulnerability without fear. Depp's character is not constructed from the usual trappings of celebrity. Instead, his character is woven from the fabric of experience, the lived-in quality of his face, the wisdom in his eyes, and the solemnity in his posture. These elements tell a story of someone who has been through the tumultuous waves of fame, the scrutiny of the public eye, and has emerged with a deeper sense of self. This rawness invites the viewer to reflect on their own life journey, their own battles, and the quiet resilience they carry within themselves. As the campaign unfolds across the globe, it becomes clear that Dior has tapped into a deeper cultural narrative, one that speaks not just to fashion but to the core of what it means to be human. This approach transcends the notion of clothing as mere material. The fragrance Sauvage embodies more than just a scent. It captures an essence, an emotion, an experience. The campaign is an invitation to immerse oneself in the atmosphere of the desert, to feel the power of solitude, to understand that sometimes the most potent stories are the ones left unsaid. The desert landscape itself, vast and barren, symbolizes the emotional space that Depp inhabits. It mirrors his personal journey, a space where everything extraneous is stripped away, leaving only the essentials of who he is. The silence that pervades the campaign is not an absence but a presence. It allows for a space where the viewer can project their own thoughts and emotions onto the imagery, drawing personal meaning from the scene. The absence of clutter or distractions in the visuals invites introspection. It becomes an exercise in stripping away the superficial layers that often define us, and instead, focusing on the core of our being. This is not just about a fragrance. It's about understanding what it means to survive, to endure, and to thrive in the face of adversity. The fragrance, then, becomes a representation of all of those intangible qualities: resilience, honesty, and the untamed spirit that can't be tamed by society's expectations. In many ways, Depp's journey in this campaign mirrors the journey of the fragrance itself. Sauvage isn't just a commodity. It's an exploration of what it means to embrace one's true essence, flaws, and all. It speaks to the power of authenticity in a world that constantly demands perfection. The choice to feature Depp at this point in his career, when he's far removed from his younger, more flamboyant days, allows for a message of reinvention without the need for reinvention. He doesn't need to shed his past to sell a product. He simply needs to show who he is now, a man who has weathered storms, who has been through public trials, and who stands firm in his truth. In this, he becomes more relatable, more accessible, and ultimately, more powerful. This vision of masculinity, complex, layered, and unapologetically real, is what makes the campaign groundbreaking. It speaks not only to those who admire Depp for his artistry and persona, but to a broader audience that is tired of the superficial portrayals of masculinity in mainstream media. By presenting Depp in this raw and introspective light, Dior redefines what it means to be a man in today's world. It acknowledges that masculinity is not a monolithic concept, but a spectrum, one that includes vulnerability, reflection, and, perhaps most importantly, the courage to simply be oneself. In doing so, the campaign not only redefines fashion advertising, but also contributes to a larger cultural conversation about what it means to be truly seen and heard in a world that often demands perfection at the expense of authenticity. The campaign's depth and artistic integrity are made even more profound by the collaborative nature of the project. Depp, traditionally seen as an enigmatic figure, steers the narrative through his subtle yet powerful approach to performance. His active participation was not just a matter of directing the shoot, but of infusing it with his own sense of purpose and artistic vision. The opportunity to step beyond the role of a mere model was one Depp embraced fully, treating each shot not as a staged moment but as a frame within a larger, ongoing story. Dior, recognizing Depp's artistry, gave him the autonomy to shape that story in a way that felt authentic and true. In doing so, they allowed the campaign to transcend the typical constraints of a high-budget commercial. This collaboration resulted in something that is not bound by fleeting trends or polished perfection, but is instead anchored in raw emotion and personal history. The quiet, understated nature of the campaign also carries immense cultural weight. Depp's stoic return to the public eye amidst a media landscape dominated by sensationalism serves as a subtle but powerful statement. He doesn't seek approval or validation from the audience, but stands as a testament to the strength that comes with resilience. Through his presence, the campaign invites viewers to engage with something deeper than surface-level aesthetics. It asks us to reflect on our own journeys, the struggles and triumphs that have shaped us, and the importance of being seen for who we truly are. This quiet yet forceful invitation to authenticity is part of what makes the Dior campaign so universally impactful, striking a chord with anyone who has faced adversity or sought a path of redemption.